Jerusalem today, as in Jesus' time, is filled with people in all shapes and sizes. So who did Jesus relate to, and how did he use touch to communicate with them? I think one of the best ways to truly understand Jesus is to see how he treated other people. Well, one of the things I've realized by reading the Gospels is how much Jesus loved people. He walked among them and got involved in their lives. He loved people so much he wanted to become one of them. Despite his celebrity status, Jesus never pushed anyone away, accepting everyone at any time. To explain Jesus' connection with people, we need to look at his spiritual DNA. The Trinity is difficult to explain in structure, but in concept, the Trinity is about relationship: Father, Son, and Holy Spirit. The very heart of Jesus, then, is about relationship. I find it amazing the many different types of connections Jesus made.
I think Jesus was easy to be around. I really do. I think that's why people were compelled to be with him. I don't know how he seemed to have time for so many. I struggle with that.
Now, the culture of the day separated classes of people: the rich from the poor, the sick from the healthy, the Jews from the Gentiles, the men from the women. Jesus broke down all those walls and associated with everyone. The apostles kept the sick and the diseased, even the children, from getting too close to Jesus, but Jesus brought them closer.
The rabbis and the priests that served in the temple could only serve if they were ritually clean. And if you touch a woman because you don't know which time in her month she is, he might become unclean. If you touch a person suffering from a certain disease like leprosy, he could become unclean. When he touched a dead body, he would be unclean. And therefore they tried to avoid all contact.
I think Jesus deliberately touched the leper that he healed to show that we should come in literal contact with those who have need and literally help them. Just like it would be like Jesus going to an AIDS or HIV ward, today.
They would put distance boundaries. They'd say you cannot come within this certain period of space, because if you do, then you're unclean. You got to go through all the rituals and all that. You've been bad because you've been tainted. And he's saying, no, that's not the way it is at all. I have no boundaries like this.
He reached out to help his fellow men. He was not being contaminated by touching a person, because as soon as he touched them, the person was healed.
Jesus touched people because of the power of touch. The power of touch says, I value you enough to get this close to you. There's nothing between us any longer. And everything about Jesus said, I've come to remove the barrier.
Physical touch was a very important affirmation. And looking them in the eye and releasing them from the social shame that they had that came with their diseases or their infirmities or their sins. I think that was all a part of setting the captive free, so to speak.
He did it when nobody else would do it. He touched people some of those lepers probably had not been touched by a human being in 10 years, in 15 years. What was that like? What did he communicate? Because he was willing to touch me, unbelievable.
Well, Jesus recognized that humans need touch. Our skin has receptors that respond to contact. Jesus could have spoken the words at times and healed people, but instead he chose human touch. His touch had power in it. His touch provided renewal and healing. Now, human touch can transfer disease and germs, but God's touch transfers life to the one being touched. Jesus loved hanging out with people so much, he went to all their parties. In fact, his association with some caused him to be labeled a drunk and a sinner. Jesus responded to them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick." I wonder where Jesus would hang out today.
When you consider the spectrum of people that Jesus would hang out with, absolutely. He could go to gay bars, he could go to strip bars, he could go to the worst alleys where junkies shoot up.
I couldn't go into those places, I'll be honest with you. I could not. I could stand outside of them and visit with people in the parking lot. But I'm not strong enough.
I think many of us are concerned with our reputation, and more concerned sometimes with the reputation that we have than the people who are most lost.
We tend to say Jesus would never go into country clubs or walk onto a golf course. I think Jesus would go wherever there was somebody who was lonely and open to an honest conversation.
If we stop to think, why don't I go down, next time I pass that guy with a cart that's homeless, why don't I just go over and sit down and have a conversation with him? I think if we thought more like Jesus, that's exactly what we'd do.
I wonder if Jesus enjoyed this newfound level of human interaction. Did living as God in spirit form limit his ability to enjoy human contact on our level? You know, in some ways, we as humans get to experience things that those in the heavenly level only marvel at. Things like marriage and friendship and kisses on the cheeks and high fives and chest bumps after a touchdown. I bet Jesus enjoyed human relationship, relishing in it and becoming the supreme example of it.
Who would he be with? He would be the worst with the worst. He would be with me. He'd be with the worst of us. He'd be with me. And I would love it. You know, we're not any different from each other. We are, apart from him, we're lost, you know. And there's no chord difference between me and, you know, somebody who gets caught, you know. And if it's not for him, the healing in my life and the healing in your life, it's just not a possibility. But he does. He comes to us. We find him in the middle of our lives. He enters into this soul that is still so damaged by history and by what people have done to us and all this stuff. And he's not ashamed to be called my brother.